From 2000 to 2013, JPMorgan allegedly facilitated Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operations by providing financial services that ignored red flags. This support was crucial for Epstein's illegal activities, highlighting the bank's intentional involvement in his criminal enterprise. Epstein's operations expanded significantly with the help of James Staley, a key figure at JPMorgan. Staley's influence within the bank allowed Epstein to access large sums of money which were used to pay victims and further his sex trafficking activities. Key figures in Epstein's operation included Ghislaine Maxwell, Les Wexner, and James Staley. Without these financial institutions, Epstein's operations would have been severely limited. JPMorgan's relationship with Epstein was mutually beneficial. Epstein brought high-value clients to the bank, while Staley ensured Epstein's protection within the financial system. This symbiotic relationship allowed Epstein to operate with impunity. Despite public exposure of Epstein's crimes, JPMorgan continued to support him. The bank's focus on profit over ethics allowed Epstein to maintain his operations, highlighting a systemic failure to address criminal activities within financial institutions. JPMorgan's involvement with Epstein included facilitating large financial transactions that were crucial for his sex trafficking operations. The bank's actions violated numerous regulations, prioritizing financial gain over legal and ethical responsibilities. After leaving JPMorgan, Epstein found a new financial partner in Deutsche Bank. This transition illustrates the challenges in preventing financial institutions from enabling criminal activities even after public exposure of such crimes. The extensive communication between Epstein and financial executives underscores the deep-rooted issues within the banking sector. These relationships facilitated Epstein's operations, demonstrating the critical role of financial oversight. This video will end the unredacted truth, Jeffrey Epstein's USVI and financial co-conspirators portion of the investigation with the JPMorgan Chase lawsuit. So far, we learned the names of the USVI government officials that were complacent in Epstein's trafficking operations. We also learned the names of Epstein's executors, lawyers, and a few co-conspirators in the Epstein enterprise. We also heard allegations made by victims in USVI versus Epstein Enterprise and the USVI Jane Doe civil suit. If you have not had a chance to watch those videos, I highly recommend heading over to the playlist Catching Up so you can follow along in this tangled web and conspiracy. Today we will begin the next chapter of the series, In the Victim's Voice. We will hear victim allegations against Staley, as not only his banker but a direct participant and the first being named on the Epstein list.
Nowhere, I look better with no hair, ain't no sign I can't smoke hair, yeah. Give me the chance and I'll go there. Bitch, I said what I said. I'd rather be famous instead. I let all that get to my head. I don't care, I paint the town red. Bitch, I said what I said.
It's time we hear the alleged crimes once again. The victims and survivors of Jeffrey Epstein have been forced to explain and defend themselves before the public over and over again. And now it's time for the accused to stand up and face the public, as the victims have had to and defend themselves. These are the factual allegations in the case of Jane Doe's individually and on behalf of all others situated versus Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, the U.S. Virgin Islands, the United States government, JPMorgan Chase, and the powerful company he kept. Hi, I'm Sonia, the girl with the answers to your most important Epstein questions. Back again to fill in the gaps left every day and every week when the pros do the reporting. What you're going to get from me, and not the others, is the truth, the facts, as recorded and investigated. That's right, the complete truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help them God, I am about to give it raw. Welcome to the Unredacted Truth behind the Epstein files. And please like, subscribe, and share so you can always head back to the Unredacted Truth where we fill in the missing gaps. This week's defendant will be the very first accused name, James Staley. Jane Doe uses a pseudonym to protect her identity because of the sensitive and highly personal nature of the crimes against her. Jane Doe is also at serious risk of retaliatory harm because the co-conspirators who participated in the Epstein trafficking enterprise had and continue to possess tremendous wealth and power and have demonstrated a clear ability to cause serious harm. Many other women are similarly situated and have had to proceed anonymously for the same reasons. Jane Doe is your mother, your sister, your wife, your girlfriend. Doe is you. This is the story of Jane Doe 1. Jane Doe 1 was living with her mother when she met Jeffrey Epstein in 2006. She was a ballet dancer in New York when she was recruited to meet Jeffrey Epstein by another young female who had fallen prey to Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking scheme. Epstein and his co-conspirators had a long history of grooming, indoctrinating, controlling, and ultimately committing offenses against young and vulnerable women. Epstein and his co-conspirators constantly reminded Jane Doe 1 how powerful and important he was. She was chastised if she refused Epstein's sexual demands and told she should be grateful that he was willing to help her with her career and education. She soon came to believe what she was told. Over the ensuing years, from 2006 through to 2013, Epstein abused Jane Doe 1 on a number of occasions. She was also trafficked to Jeffrey Epstein's friends. Epstein transported Jane Doe 1 from New York to other states. She wanted to escape, but Epstein and his supporting team of co-conspirators would increase the tactics of fraud, force, coercion to cause her to remain compliant in fulfilling Epstein's sexual demands. Jeffrey Epstein controlled Jane Doe 1 financially, emotionally, and psychologically. He used his knowledge of Jane Doe 1's aspirations, fears, and problems to manipulate her until she was completely controlled by and dependent upon him. When Epstein went to jail for sex offenses in Florida, he maintained contact with Jane Doe 1. He and employees of his business entities, which were created to support and legitimize Epstein's abuse and trafficking enterprise, including HBRK, NES, Financial Trust, and Florida Science Foundation, caused Jane Doe 1 to be transported to Florida in order to engage in commercial sex with Epstein in his Florida residence while on so-called work release from jail, while he was still wearing his ankle monitor. Over the ensuing years, Epstein threatened Jane Doe 1 in many ways, including threatening if she did not abide by his demands, she would lose contact with the people she cared about. Epstein would alternate between promises and threats to secure her compliance with his demands, including demands that she engage in commercial acts with him and others. In some instances, Epstein would pay her directly in cash obtained from JPMorgan for the acts. Epstein and his co-conspirators continued to coerce Jane Doe in various ways until her ultimate escape. Jane Doe's lawsuit further alleges that Jess Staley knew without a doubt that Epstein was trafficking and abusing girls. All of Epstein's staff, including his attorney and accountant, worked full-time to conceal the illegal operation. Jess Staley knows the identities of co-conspirators and victims. He personally observed her as a sex trafficking and abuse victim. Jane Doe further alleges that Staley personally spent time with young girls whom he met through Epstein on several occasions, personally visited young girls at Epstein's apartments located at 301 East 66th Street, personally observed Epstein around young girls, and personally observed Epstein sexually grab young women in front of him. Staley had promised to use his clout within JPMorgan to make Epstein untouchable, and kept his word by repeatedly thwarting JPMorgan Chase's efforts to sever ties with Epstein. During the Palm Beach Police Department's 2005 investigation into Epstein abuse of minor children, the detectives pulled message pads left by Epstein's assistant from his trash, as well as search warrants executed at 131 Palm Beach, Florida. According to those message pads, Staley was a frequent caller to Epstein's Florida home throughout the course of Epstein's banking relationship with JPMorgan. Staley and Epstein's relationship grew closer as the years went on. In fact, during the criminal investigation into Epstein in 2005, Staley flew on Epstein's plane along with Sarah Kellen and Nadia, individuals who had bank accounts with JPMorgan and who were publicly identified as Epstein co-conspirators in his trafficking offenses. There came a time when Epstein forced Jane Doe to give massages to his powerful friends. During some of these massages, she was abused by force and against her will by Epstein's friends whom she had been required to massage. One of Epstein's friends used aggressive force in his assault of her and informed Jane Doe that he had Epstein's permission to do what he wanted to her out of fear. Jane Doe was scared to name this powerful financial executive. Upon further investigation, Staley was believed to be the person who she described as a powerful financial executive she had historically been afraid to identify. The U.S. Virgin Islands lawsuit alleges that between 2008 and 2012, Staley had a close relationship and profound friendship with Epstein, and that their correspondence even suggests that Staley may have been involved in Epstein's trafficking operation. Further, the U.S. Virgin Islands alleges that Staley visited Epstein's residence in Palm Beach in January 2009, and after this visit, corresponded with Epstein wiring $2,000 to a woman with an Eastern European surname. In addition, the United States Virgin Islands alleges that after Staley emailed Epstein in late August 2009 that he would be in London. A week later, Epstein asked whether Staley would need anything during his visit. To this, just Staley replied, "Yup." And according to the USVI, on August 31st, 2009, Epstein then wired $3,000 to the same Eastern European woman. On July 10th, 2010, Staley emailed Epstein, "Maybe they're tracking you. That was fun. Say hi to Snow White." Epstein responded, "What character would you like next?" Staley replied, "Beauty and the Beast." To which Epstein responded, "Well, one side is available." While JPMorgan Chase held discussions regarding Epstein, Staley was apparently in regular contact with Jeffrey Epstein. However, Staley never disclosed to anyone at JPMorgan Chase that he had witnessed, was aware of, or participated in any of the activities he had been accused of. In 2013, JPMorgan Chase terminated its relationship with Epstein. This is the statement from JPMorgan Chase in the case regarding Staley. JPMorgan Chase also further asserts that they deny any liability to Doe and any punitive class. JPMorgan asserts that Staley is liable to JPMorgan Chase by way of indemnification for all damages awarded to Doe and any punitive class, together with costs, attorneys, and such other relief as the court deems just and appropriate. JPMorgan Chase further states that at no point did Staley disclose to them, nor did JPMorgan Chase otherwise know the information about Staley's personal activities with Epstein. Staley did not disclose this information despite his fiduciary duty to JPMorgan Chase, asking him to offer his views as to whether JPMorgan Chase should retain Epstein as a client. The last were all statements from JPMorgan Chase as to just Staley, and they did let him go.
Jeffrey Epstein, a wealthy individual, orchestrated a sex trafficking operation from the 1990s to 2019. He used coercion and fraud to lure young women into commercial sex acts, often paying them and encouraging recruitment of others. Epstein's network spanned multiple states and involved numerous victims, exploiting their vulnerabilities and aspirations. Epstein's operation functioned like a cult, indoctrinating victims into a world where he was seen as a protector. Through manipulation and threats, victims were coerced into compliance. The operation's complexity grew with the involvement of influential individuals and financial institutions, which facilitated the trafficking activities. Epstein's network relied on powerful connections, including financial institutions like JPMorgan, which provided essential support. This enabled the trafficking operation to expand globally. Epstein's wealth and influence were used to manipulate and control victims, ensuring the operation's longevity and reach. JPMorgan played a crucial role in Epstein's operation by providing financial services that masked illegal activities. From 2000 to 2013, the bank facilitated transactions that supported the trafficking network. This involvement was intentional, providing Epstein with the means to continue his exploitation of young women. Epstein's relationship with JPMorgan executive James Staley was pivotal. Staley's influence within the bank allowed Epstein to operate with impunity. This partnership enabled Epstein to expand his trafficking network, leveraging financial resources to maintain and grow his illegal activities. The message pads reveal frequent communication between Epstein and Staley, indicating a close relationship. These interactions suggest coordination and complicity in the trafficking activities, highlighting the depth of involvement by financial institutions in supporting Epstein's operations. Further message pads illustrate ongoing communication between Epstein and his associates, including Staley. These records underscore the systematic nature of the trafficking operation and the role of financial networks in facilitating and concealing illegal activities. JPMorgan's protection of Epstein was driven by financial incentives. Staley ensured Epstein's operations were shielded, leveraging his connections to maintain the bank's relationship with wealthy clients. This protection was crucial for the continuation of Epstein's trafficking network. Despite internal recommendations to sever ties, JPMorgan maintained its relationship with Epstein due to his value as a client. Executives argued for his retention, highlighting the bank's prioritization of profit over ethical considerations. This decision facilitated ongoing exploitation and abuse. Jane Doe's story exemplifies the manipulation and control exerted by Epstein and his network. Recruited under false pretenses, she was coerced into compliance through threats and promises. Her experience reflects the broader pattern of exploitation faced by many victims within Epstein's operation. Staley's involvement with Epstein extended beyond financial transactions. Allegations suggest a personal relationship that facilitated the trafficking operation. Staley's actions, including visits and communications, indicate a deeper complicity in the exploitation and abuse orchestrated by Epstein. In New York and elsewhere, Epstein perpetuated this abuse in similar ways. Epstein and his co-conspirators used Epstein's vast yet mysterious wealth and connections to other rich and powerful individuals to lure new victims into his home for seemingly innocuous activity. Victims were initially recruited to speak with an alleged philanthropic Epstein and provide massages to him. The well-oiled Epstein sex abuse and trafficking venture included frequent statements by Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirators that 1. Jeffrey Epstein possessed extraordinary wealth, power, and influence. 2. Jeffrey Epstein's business and political friends, including world leaders, also included some of the most powerful people in the world. 3. Jeffrey Epstein had the ability to advance or destroy nearly anyone financially, reputationally, and otherwise. 4. Medical and normal life necessities would be denied if victims failed to perform commercial sex acts for Jeffrey Epstein. 5. Jeffrey Epstein could take away victims' life needs, such as shelter or housing, if she or they failed to perform. In 2019, Epstein was indicted for sex trafficking but died in custody. His associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, was later convicted for her role. The victims continue to seek justice. For now, we give the victims the one thing that every NDA, omission, collusion, NPA sweetheart deal took from them. With every video and every passing week, the Unredacted Truth will give the victims their stories, their words, their voices back. In the next video, we will reveal more of the victims' allegations and names in civil lawsuits. Many of these lawsuits were settled by the defendants. What do you think that means? How about your opinions on the first accused name revealed? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so we can continue to support the victims and reveal the names.